My Christmas present, it would seem, are individually wrapped pears. Let's see what we can do with them.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob King. Welcome to my homebrewing channel. This is brew number 18 and this is a pear cider. In this episode we are going to look at all of the stages right the way from fresh fruit to cider in the glass. That covers the juicing and pressing of the apples, it includes the fermentation, it includes all of the flavourings that we did to sort of help bring out the best in this cider, and of course it includes a final tasting. Also at the end of this video there's a lessons learned. What did I learn from this exercise? And as always I'm sure there is going to be lots in that. So please do like and subscribe and let's get going. Make mine a baby sham, or as I recall the advert from the 80s, make mine a baby sham. So baby sham is a type of pear cider. In fact, when I first recorded the intro to this, I mistakenly said I'm about to do a perry. Now perry is a very specific type of pear cider made specifically from perry pears. And these pears, I'm not exactly sure what they are, but I do believe they're probably conference. So we are doing a pear cider. Thank you for watching. As I record this video, I'm coming up to my first anniversary of home brewing, having been given a beer making kit a year ago for Christmas. Since that time, I've diverted into just about everything I could find, and more recently into fresh fruit ciders. And if you've been watching the channel, you've seen some apple ciders provided by my sister and brother-in-law. Now, my parents have got involved with their pear tree. So we're taking their fresh pears to see what we can do and create a pear cider. So before we begin, please do like and subscribe and let's get on with it.
Father Christmas seems to have delivered me some more pears. I also have a new toy, the Pulp Master. Hopefully this will save my fingers a little bit when it comes to the grating bit.
The next step is to pulp some of this up. So I'm going to try this little baby out. Now, I think the trick with the pulping bucket is actually to push it down to the bottom, let it start to create a whirlpool, and then just gently bring it up and down a very little bit. That seemed to be the bit that I was missing the first time. Let's see if we're successful. Yes. We've got 2.5 litres so far, but there's still some more to come. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a Campden Tablet, and then we can put it away for a couple of days. So I'm just going to crush that up. Campden tablets remove any bacteria from the fresh fruit. That is more than necessary. There's normally 1 tablet per 4.5 litres. We've only got 2.5 litres, but you know, hard to split it down to 2/3. The pear juice has had 2 days and seems to have developed some sediment, so I'm going to siphon it into the fermenter and then add all of what we need. So, gravity. We are ready to start fermentation, so a few additions. First addition is 2.5 grams of Pectolase. That will start to help with clearing that up. We also need some yeast nutrients to help things along. 2 of them that we're going to add. First is Fermaid-O. Again, 2.5 grams of that. Don't forget, we've just got shy of 3 litres, so we're not doing a full 5 litre batch here. I'll be honest, I was actually going for 2.5 grams also of DAP, another yeast nutrient. However, I went slightly over, 4 grams here. I think that'll be okay. And then finally, the coup de grace is our Nottingham Yeast. So very successful with Nottingham Yeast in the previous apple cider. So I'm going with the same idea again. 3 grams of Nottingham Yeast. I just need to add the airlock, but before I do that, I'm going to put a touch of this food grade grease on the connection here, just to make sure we have a nice clean seal. Okay. And we'll just put that away for a couple of weeks, I suppose. Pear cider, ready to go to the next stage. Fermentation, here we come. Day 2, pear cider's gone a bit quiet. Pear cider, day 4. Also quiet. It's time for the pear cider to come out of the fridge. Seems quite clear. Believe it or not, I've got to wait for this to warm up, not cool down. Where I've been cold crashing, that's still pretty cold, so I need to get that up to more closer to room temperature. Oh. Meanwhile, these are pretty cloudy. So despite racking it, I'm definitely going to just have to put them to one side for a few more weeks to see what happens. But once it's warmed up a bit, I'll also do a taste test and see if there's anything more we need to do. Only thing left to do is put on a couple of airlocks just temporarily while we decide what we are doing. Pear cider, waiting for the next stage. Time for a little taste. Not a lot of taste to it, oddly enough. Certainly no pear taste, a little bit of alcohol taste. It's just quite weak, really. So I did think this may be the case, so I am going to do a couple of additions. 3 additions, in fact. One is just a little bit of sweetener, one is some glycerol, and one is I'm going to add one of these, which is, I actually picked them up for Christmas, which is whole Star Anise, and they are a nice little flavouring. They've got a lovely aroma to them, and I think give a nice sort of just a little bit of flavour. I'm not going to add, in fact, I'm just going to add 2. So I'm not going to add a huge amount for a long period of time, but I think it's just going to add that little bit of extra flavour to the cider. So that is the plan. I'm just going to move things around. $80 grams of xylitol sweetener, Star Anise, and the trickiest bit, just 1 milliliter of glycerol. So these are going to go away now for probably a couple of weeks. We will see how it goes. We'll watch to see if they clear. I'm hoping that they do. Otherwise, we may come back and try a little bit more on the finings. But for now, it's going to be a wait and see. This is day 18, so we've racked yesterday. We'll see if it starts to clear.
Day 24, starting to clear a little bit. Okay, starting to look much clearer. I'm going to have to move those carefully though, but yeah, decide what to do next now.
The pear cider's been in the fridge for a couple of days. It did have quite a bit still sort of floating around in there, and it has helped it a little bit, but it continues to be a bit of an enigma, this one. So I also need to find myself a bit more space, so I'm going to put this into the Mini-Keg. That gives me some extra time just to put it to one side and then come back to it in the new year. So my plan for today is basically siphon into the Mini-Keg, give it a layer of CO2 and just put it to one side for a while. So that's the plan. Everything's just been sanitized, hence they're a bit drippy. This is purely just a bit of CO2 in the keg before we begin. Now this does have the potential to be messy. 2 sources, 1 destination. Now source number 2, I have a sanitised backup bottle. Now, interesting, I have a dilemma because when I pump this, I'm going to pump air through the cider. Now that's probably not the worst disaster, it could be bad in beer, but in an attempt to overcome that, I'm just going to leave that there, right there at the top. Okay, here we go. Ooh, success. It literally ended right there when I got to the top, so didn't need that. Okay, 2 litres then. I appreciate the dip tube's too long, but that's not what I'm putting it in here. I just want to give it a dose of CO2. Well, I'm going to stick that through the sanitizer. I'm not using the dip tube, I'm using the CO2 line. I only need a little bit. Okay, what I've got now is my pear cider in there. That's nice and cold. My pear cider in there, a nice good layer of CO2. I can take that off, that'll keep the pressure up. I can store that away, that's quite convenient size to store. And I'll come back to carbonate later on. So back in a few weeks' time when we'll finish this one off. Let's see what we can salvage for a taster. Appreciate it's going to be a bit cloudy. Well, that was a good glass full. Interesting aroma. There is a really nice aroma. I can't quite place it though. I'm guessing it must be the Star Anise actually. In combination with the pear, with time, I can now pick up the pear. That is a very pleasant drink. I wonder if that is good uncarbonated. Ooh, what ABV was this one? Let's look it up. That is very nice. Crumbs, this is unexpected. This pear cider has caused me a few bits of grief. I wasn't really sure what to do, and yet this is quite good. Right, completely contrary to everything I've just said, I may just bottle this. I can't remember where I read. Star Anise was something that is quite often used in cider making. Never ever knew that. Well, based again on a sample of just one, it does seem to have turned an ordinary drink into something quite special. Oh, well, on that bombshell, back soon. I really don't think I could have salvaged anything more from the pear cider. Pear cider in the fridge. It's a couple of weeks later, Christmas is out of the way, it's time to revisit the pear cider
and get it into a bottle. Just out of interest, did it keep its pressure? No. Not off to a great start, but the dip tube I've got in here is for the bigger keg. I now think that might have been the cause of my problem. Yep, so it was. That was well tangled. Smaller dip tube. This had not run out. That was annoying. Right, about 10 psi.
The pear cider is in the bottle, but it's been a little longer than I expected to get to the point of drinking. In between, I've had almost 3 weeks of illness, so I am very much looking forward to tasting this today. So let's get on with it. Now, there was no carbonation, so we didn't expect a fizz bang. So we've still got a little bit of that haze in the colour. That's a shame. I was hoping, given the delay for drinking, that some of that might have cleared a little. It's been in the fridge as well, so that would have helped. So even more so, I think perhaps it's a chill haze that we got with this. In terms of aroma, it still has that absolutely delicious smell. It probably is the Star Anise, but now it's very clearly very peary, actually enough. So that pear sort of cider is definitely coming through pretty strong. In fact, aroma is very nice indeed. Let's try a little sip. Wow, when we tested this a little while ago, we said we're not going to carbonate. This is a delicious flavour, and it still is very much so. It has a little bit of strength to it, so you can tell it's alcoholic, but it's not an alcoholic taste, if that makes any sense. But actually, it's a very nice feel on the mouth. This drink you could honestly chug. It is that nice, but it's a little too alcoholic to be doing that. The additional sweetener that we added sort of part way through, I think, has brought up the level of sweetness. It's definitely a medium sweet level, but actually it's the Star Anise and the pears together that's giving quite a full aftertaste that's still there and still very nice indeed. I am extremely happy with how this one has turned out, taste and flavour wise. I just wish we'd got a little bit more clarity, but honestly, that's something we'll sort of look into as we go forward to see what we can do there. So the final evaluation is very good indeed. I'm very tempted to make this one a 9 out of 10. So cheers everyone, thank you for watching. As always, when we reach this stage of the video, it's time to reflect, and in retrospect, what are the lessons learned from the pear cider? And actually, there are quite a few to talk about on this occasion. The first one actually is slightly humorous. It's the individually wrapped pears from my parents, which I had a good giggle about at the time. However, it did serve a really good purpose. While unwrapping those pears, there were several that were bruised and had started to sort of go bad. But the wrapping of the individual pears prevented that from spreading across the whole box. So, you know, thanks to my parents, I probably got more cider out of that than expected, though quite an unusual Christmas present. The second lesson is definitely the pulping bucket. Finally got it to work properly. By removing that notch that was in the top, the blade could go very deep into the bucket without hitting the sides or hitting the bottom, but very deep into the bucket. That depth of going into the bucket was perfect. So while the modification may not have been up to manufacturer's standards, the pulping bucket itself was a fabulous addition to my arsenal of brewing paraphernalia, and especially after my challenges of grating, chopping and other ways to try and reduce the fruit down. So if you've never come across a pulping bucket, definitely add it to your arsenal if you're doing some fresh fruit ciders. I've got the pulping bucket and I've got the fruit press. I'm now on the lookout for what thing I will do next. I'm certain a wine is on the horizon. Lesson number 3 is the plastic fermentation bucket. Now these are nice and cheap, and I was able to buy one very quickly and get going, and it was great. Apart from one thing, and that was I couldn't see what was going on. I really enjoyed in these videos to watch the various stages of fermentation. Now I've kept all of the demijohns in the dark, and I've just pulled them out sort of from time to time throughout the fermentation just to see the various stages. And of course in a white plastic bucket, I couldn't see any of that. That is a bit of a disappointment. I would have liked to have seen more, and I think, you know, I'm going to invest in some more carboys of different sizes, I think, over time that are transparent and will let me to continue to do that. But in terms of convenience and cheapness and ease to clean, you know, all these things were great, but for me personally, I did miss seeing the stages of fermentation. And lesson number 4 is completely out of sync. That is because when I was editing the video, I discovered that I completely jumped over it. So here I am today recording the evaluation of the Russian Imperial Stout, which has gone very well indeed. And I'm coming back to revisit lesson number 4, which for the pear cider was the fermentation time. And here I'm referring to 2 different phases. Firstly, primary fermentation was a little slower than expected. You know, you would normally expect that to be pretty close within a week and certainly complete within 3, and the pear cider was slower. But mostly I'm referring to the stage that followed, and actually the sort of fact that you normally see in apple ciders, it's starting to clear quite quickly. And with the pear cider, the level of pectins are much higher. So I never really achieved the level of clarity that I was hoping through that secondary fermentation phase. And even when I put it into storage a little bit, which was extending secondary fermentation for even longer, it never really achieved that final result. So there is something about pear cider that simply takes a bit longer, and something I think that on my next experience I will look at again. And lesson number 5, I'm also going to re-record. I somehow managed to mangle the name Star Anise multiple times while recording the lesson learned for number 5. For some reason I seem to mangle Star Anise with the band Skunk Anansie, and I ended up with something that sounded a bit like this. Lesson number 5 then was the Star Anansie, but the Star Anansie definitely. So, Star Anise. Rob, it's called Star Anise. Right, got it. So, I actually purchased some Star Anise for some mulled wine for Christmas and just happened to have it lying around. So it was a little bit of a fortuitous coincidence. And I'd also been reading about things I could do to try and pep up the pear cider, because as you may recall, in those early phases, it just wasn't really hitting the spot and I wasn't quite sure what to do. And actually one of the things I read about it was one of the potential flavourings that you could use was the addition of a Star Anise. And I thought, well, why not? We will give it a try. Well, I know this is a sample of just one, but the addition of the Star Anise really did bring out a lot of flavour in the pear cider and really did pep it up a bit. So I am very, very pleased with the result of using that, and it is something I will consider again. I love it in a mulled wine, and I think, you know, I now have a very large bag of Star Anise, so I will certainly use that again. Lesson number 6 then is the good old Mini-Keg, my 2-litre Mini-Keg in this example, because we were down to 2 litres by this stage. Really convenient. I was able to sort of pressurize it and put it in the fridge and put it away over Christmas and New Year when I knew I would not be able to get to sort of finishing this cider off. And here we are at the end of January before I'm recording this video. So storage in the Mini-Keg was a super addition. So having those Mini-Kegs in different sizes that you can sort of put away, pressurize, seal, you know, make sure they're sort of protected from any oxidization from the air. They're all in the dark, of course, because they're sort of stainless steel. You know, I've only got 2 Mini-Kegs, but I am using them constantly, turning them around with activities. So I'm really pleased with the Mini-Kegs, and also really pleased with using them for something slightly different, which was just storage in this case, to give me some time to come back to the pear cider, and result achieved. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to my mum and dad for the pears, because without that I would never have even got started on this. Please do like and subscribe, send me some messages, let me know what you've learned from this or anything I can learn from this. As I say, this is my first anniversary of home brewing, so everything is a lesson learned as I work through each of these new and different brews. So happy home brewing, everyone. Cheers. Check out Homebrew 15 for the Russian Imperial Stout. It did turn out very nice indeed. 10% ABV, so quite strong, lovely malty taste, a bit of a bitter aftertaste, but incredibly drinkable. So this was a great little brew and one to check out.